Welcome to a half hour with, and I'm Pete Hammond, your host today. And today it's a half hour with The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Man, 7 Emmy nominations overall this year. That's not only the most for this show, I think it's history. It's part of this history since Trevor Noah has been hosting it, but also for any show in the category of Outstanding Talk Variety Series. So congratulations to The Daily Show here. Amazing news here. And look who we have here. All of these Emmy nominees and people, and like, this is so exciting, who are involved with this show. So I want to introduce you all. First up, you know him. I'm obsessed with his segments. I watch them. Actually, I don't watch them once. I watch them over and over. I could talk to you all day about this stuff, Jordan. What you do is amazing. And this is, of course, Jordan Klepper, who has been working on this show, his own Comedy Central show, many specials. He's also nominated for Outstanding Writing in a variety special for his Jordan Klepper Fingers the Globe, Hungry for Democracy. Congratulations, Jordan.
Thank you, Pete, and I appreciate your obsession.
I really, yes. I have to ask you about a couple of people you interview. You are a brave person, by the way, going to all those Trump rallies. Now, we also have many of the people here that really make this show tick as well. There's Jen Flanz. Hey, Jen, how are you? She has worked 20, how many years? 20 plus years, something like that.
We lost count. It's like either 2 or 25. I don't even remember.
Oh my gosh, a Daily Show veteran. She does it all on the show. So welcome to you as well. And then we have a head writer, comedian, all of the things he does too, Zhubin. Hi, Zhubin.
Great to be here. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, good to see you again. And then we have also, oh my gosh, a supervising producer, and he's worked on all kinds of things too, as well as on this show for some time. And that would be Ian Berger. Hi, Ian.
Well, Pete, thanks for having us.
And we have another producer, and she also has worked for about, 15 years, maybe more? Yeah.
The math day.
Wow. Okay. Well, welcome, Jocelyn, Conn. And again, congratulations to all of you. Jen, let me start with you. This show has gone through many changes, as we all have during the pandemic. It has had to adapt. It has had to change. It has now gone back to a semblance of where it might have been in the great golden year of 2019. Take me through it a little bit here in what The Daily Show with Trevor Noah has survived and maybe thrived.
I mean, I think that we all, not even, there's the whole world, right? Where we have survived together. It's not even the end of the pandemic. It's kind of like, who knows? It might be intermission, or we're all going out for snacks and we're coming back for the next act. Who knows? But we at The Daily Show have gone through many changes in the last year. And just in this last year, we did the show from Trevor's apartment. We did the show from a smaller studio with no audience. And then we moved back to our studio with a full audience, which, like you said, was the studio we were in 2019. So it's almost like we came back home finally, but we really did so many different iterations of the show in the pandemic that we kind of used the time to hone different skills. We kept what we like from each version of the show and have elevated the studio version significantly just by things that we tested out during Trevor's home show and the show without the studio audience. I mean, we could try a lot of stuff, throw a lot against the wall when it was just us with no audience there judging immediately. And then I think we came back in front of an audience with a lot of really strong tools in our belt.
Yeah, so in some ways, it's changed your game for the better, really, it seems like.
Yeah, I think it really gave us a chance to play around with things that we might never have tried. When you're in a routine, making 4 nights of show a week, it's hard to break it at all and think outside the box. You're just like, oh, we know how to get this done, and you're up against the clock all day. It's hard to try new things. We always, try and slip things in here or there, We have a lot more flexibility in the package department, which are our pre-tape segments. We have a little more time on that Ian actually runs with Elise Terrell. They have a little more flexibility in like testing stuff out. But the stuff with Trevor in front of the audience, it's hard to break out of the way you think about it every day without having been forced to, which the pandemic kind of made us really think outside the box. How do we make a show from Trevor's apartment? How to make a show with one camera, maybe two, and by camera, I mean iPhone, it's really like forced us to think, wow, what can we do here? That'll get us in front of our audience and still, maintain that like daily show rhythm. But doing that really helped us to think of new things. Trevor, we always knew he was good at doing accents. He does that in his stand-up. It's one of the things that like we liked when we got him here as the host. But we never did it in the same way that we do it now with these cutaways in front of green screen where he's playing a different character. I mean, those were never things that we did in front of an audience before the pandemic. And now we are able to, which is amazing.
It's very cool. Well, I'm going to show what they call in the trade a sizzle reel, because it's going to combine many different elements of what you're talking about, what the show's doing, all the guest stars, all kinds of different aspects of the show that we see on a daily basis. But here, all compact in 4 beautiful minutes of the Daily Show with Trevor Noah. So take a look.
My man. All right, are you guys ready? Woo! Oh, wow. Hell yeah! Yeehaw! Am I the only person who's shocked that Vladimir Putin has a girlfriend? Am I the only one? If there's any man out there who has some red flags, girl, let me tell you about Vlad. I know some people like a bad boy, but this is next level. You still have to wear a mask on the New York City subway, which has nothing to do with COVID. It's just an extra layer of protection for when you fall asleep and you wake up to find a stranger licking you. Please say hello to the Daily Show's brand new one-man band, Anderson .Paak! I needed to see other people, a lot of other people. This is not gonna work out. Close the door, let's do the show.
Yeehaw! Howdy, partners. I'm here in Texas. Everything that happened this year happened in Texas. The border crisis, QAnon resurrecting JFK Jr., me developing a crippling dependency on brisket.
My only knowledge of bees is that a swarm of them killed Macaulay Culkin and my girl. So if they'll do that to a little white boy, I don't know what they would do to a grown black woman. It's dripping!
There's a lot of nervousness here in Florida about CRT, about LGBTQ issues. Should we just outlaw the alphabet altogether? Because eventually they're gonna start putting those things together and they become words, and then you can learn things like history.
You get COVID now, don't nobody give a damn. It's like telling people you got dandruff. Don't nobody care. Keep the shit off me and I'll see you tomorrow.
This government facility hiding in plain sight is an endpoint where your feces is collected. Hey, what are you doing with our fluids? We have a right to know.
Sir, this is just a wastewater treatment plant, that's it.
So you admit that you have our poop?
Briefly, I guess.
See, I knew it. You can't get me, mother.
Well, as you can see behind me, Trevor, in about half the states in this country, women's rights are being burnt to the goddamn ground. Because if this court decision becomes a reality, women in these states are screwed. And not just the normal, like, I live in Texas screwed.
Women in places like South Dakota or Missouri or even Texas will have the exact same abortion rights as women in Afghanistan under the Taliban. After all these years of the right screaming about the threats of Sharia law, it turns out they were just jealous.
The flight's overbooked? Well, you know what? I'm just gonna buy another seat on a less convenient flight. Can I get my money back first? I need to move it over to the 14 days. I can't wait 14 days.
Thanks to inflation, I'm just a glorified bookmark covered in fecal matter. You think maybe you could close your eyes? Nicki Minaj tweeted out that her cousin's friend in Trinidad took the COVID vaccine, and then his balls swole, and he became impotent. You think Dr. Fauci has it rough? The health minister of Trinidad had to spend the whole day going around asking people about their balls. How are your testicles? And how are your balls? Everything fine? I grew up my whole life in an abusive household. Women are questioned for what is happening to them as opposed to people questioning what is happening to them. The Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, Pete Davidson situation started very much in the land of tabloid. And over time, Kanye has become more and more belligerent. And all I'm saying about this story is, if Kim cannot escape, then what chance do normal women have? My guest tonight is legendary tennis champion Serena Williams. Please welcome Ben Stiller, Jake Gyllenhaal, Monica Lewinsky, John Legend, Greta Thunberg. I love having you on the show. You speak to my soul. Gerard Carmichael, Nick Offerman, Stacey Abrams, Bill Gates, Janelle Monáe, Dwayne Wade, Halle Berry, Tandy Wenyuti, Mahershala Ali, Ariana DeBose, Amir Questlove Thompson, Gabrielle Union, Miss India Ari, Rosie Perez, Bad Bunny, Sandra Oh, Evan Rachel Wood, Terry Crews.
I'm gonna show you how to do it, man.
You're doing it right now. I love it. I love it. Tweet, 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 tweet. Trevor Noah saves puppies. Hey. Hashtag follow and subscribe.
Wow. Your whole life just passed before your eyes. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
Shows.
Jocelyn, talk about, from your perspective, looking at that and all those elements that goes into the show and all the staff that we're not looking at right now, but there's hundreds or at least 100 that work.
It's only the people here that make it. I don't know.
Yeah. Talk about what it is achieving here in the mix of comedy and a lot of social comment that is so important. I think this is where people get their key news and their key truths too. It is in this show and shows like it now.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the sizzle, like you said, feels like flashing in front of my eye. It feels like a blur because this past year has been, as Jen was explaining before, we've done the show in 3 different locations. It's been 3 fully different versions, which has forced everyone to have to step up majorly to do each part of this. Especially during the pandemic, we had to completely break down the way we made the show, and it had to, we focused more on like a post-production. So our editors just had to really step up and just kind of take just this whole show that we made every day and piece it together. And I feel like that's a testament to their nomination, really. But you know, from the field, from our packages team, just kind of going out into the field and making all these longer lead pieces for us to be able to every day talk about what's going on in our ever cycling news system. It's just been such a wild ride this past year.
Also, Jocelyn is one of the major parts of her job is to work on our expansion team, which is all of our digital and social content. And in the pandemic, the first thing we did was look to that team to say ooh, we're a linear show. How do we, you guys are putting out stuff all day, all the time. How are we doing that? And what's the audience's thirst for that? So that team played such a major role in, in getting the show up and running from home.
Yeah, and basically reacting immediately to everything that was going on. It's been, thanks, Jen.
It's when she just mentioned, the social media, the digital content, that's become as important as your actual show that goes on every night. It's a continuation of it. And it's how a lot of people, particularly younger viewers, are seeing television now. They're seeing it in this way. So it's very important to get that across and be in that game, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like most people that I ask now are like, oh, I saw that on YouTube, or I saw that on your Twitter. And honestly, some of the things that we do, people don't even know whether it was just we're so in the game, we're so deep in the game. We know oh, that was a joke on social, or that was a joke on the show, or both. But some people completely see it as one piece, which is our expansion team. That's the team I'm a part of, like that is kind of like our job is to, you know, put all that out in the world and make sure people have eyes on it.
It was important, especially like during the pandemic, when typically our immediate feedback comes from our studio audience, right?
Right.
And being able to cut up the show, put it on social in different ways, and our expansion team, like knowing what plays well on TikTok as opposed to what plays well on, you know, Instagram, and what plays well on YouTube. And we were able to then at least get feedback from our audience on those platforms instead of, you know, our initial, like the laugh in the studio, which really has always been the thing that's so immediate.
Yeah. So in respects, speaking of that, Jordan, your name pops up all the time on my computer. There's this, let's watch this. And then I'll stop whatever I'm doing and watch, have I seen this one or whatever? And I go, oh, I saw this one. And I watch it all the way through again.
I hope you're not doing important things.
Are you kidding? No. I'm watching your segments here, which are amazing, and everything you're doing and your specials and all of that is, you know, it's astounding actually what you go out and do. Tell me about that and your adventures out there with these, you know, kind of scary situations. I think going to a Trump rally, you know, you deserve a Medal of Valor or something here.
Well, at least an Emmy, I think.
At very least an Emmy.
No, I feel like I've always loved it. One of the things that The Daily Show does, and only The Daily Show does, is it sends funny people to where the news is happening. And I've always loved that part of the job. And from the get-go, the ability to go to where news is happening, talk to people on the ground and see what is going on has been so immediate and fun and harrowing and scary. And, you know, I got to do that at The Daily Show. I got to do some pieces of my own. And then coming back to follow this past election, I get paired with Ian Berger, who I've worked with from the beginning. And we've sort of figured out how to act quickly and to prep. And I think what a lot of people don't know is, you know, we have such a team at The Daily Show. When news is breaking, Ian and I start texting back and forth. We get on a phone call with the great writers at The Daily Show, and we start bouncing around ideas. We joke it's almost like debate prep, so that we can hop on a plane in a few hours, fly to some place. Usually it's in Pennsylvania. It's almost always in Pennsylvania.
That's driving, Jordan. When we go to Pennsylvania, it's in the car. It's driving.
That's in the car. I fly. Again, I'm still a big star, so I fly to Pennsylvania. It takes forever. And frankly, I should just be taking a car. But at that point, it's a status thing, and my ego won't let me get into a car. But we suddenly find ourselves in these places, and I think it's been great to, again, in this pandemic where everybody feels so cloistered away, we get to actually go out and see what people are talking about, thinking about. We get to go to Hungary to see how democracy is crumbling across the globe and what that could mean for places like America. And so I feel very fortunate in the fact that my job gets to work with such talented folks and that we get to respond to what is happening in the news. But it also speaks volumes about the fact that a former improv coach is suddenly with 4 security guards at the nation's capital as an insurrection is going on. So the world is slightly different than I expected it would be a decade ago, but
yeah,
that's changed for you.
Well, you go to Hungary and you get an Emmy nomination. Tucker Carlson goes to Hungary and does 5 days with, you know, a dictator, and you know, it's a completely different
Exactly. He gets no Emmy nominations, and he will probably get a nod to be a vice presidential running mate. But I'll take the Emmy nomination.
Access. That's
go
what
ahead.
we really wanted.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian. What, from your perspective of this, because you're out there in the you know, on the firing line, obviously, in this, and so what's that like?
It's incredible and harrowing. I think if you were to ask, like, under normal circumstances, I think you would think going into a crowd of angry people who are unvaccinated, unmasked, and frothing at the mouth would be an unpleasant experience. But with Klepper, it's usually not. It's usually actually very fun. Now, there are times we're afraid, a little afraid, but at the same time, as Jordan said, it's exciting because you want to approach people who are talking about the news and have strong feelings about the news. And
Right.
So there is this immediacy that this storyline just broke, and this is a crowd of people who are fired up over it, and we can start to talk to them. It's not something that's going to take weeks. It's going to take like lots of planning and booking. It's like, let's just go to the crowd And it's really satisfying, and it's immediately satisfying. Now, that's the normal kind of MAGA rallies we do. And the Hungary special was also satisfying because there was a little bit more planning. We kind of knew there were these events coming. We knew this election was coming up. And we said, let's go to Bucharest. And we picked and they sent us to the wrong city. And
and this is, for anybody doing international satirical comedy, you gotta Google the country first. You gotta
don't type on your iPhone the location to your travel department, because it's a very easy mistake. Either city would have been great, and we lucked out.
Right. That's very funny. And then sometimes you just stumble upon what I would call comedy gold. At one of the Trump rallies, you had these two girls with these weird, sunglasses who I've watched it several times. I can't believe they're real. So tell me, Jordan, you just stumbled on them and they are actually real, that kind of dead in the brain?
I mean, I think it is shocking. People often ask, how do you get people to talk to you at these rallies? But you have to understand, when you arrive at a Trump rally, most people are wearing capes, oversized sunglasses, and giant T-shirts that scream some profanity at the current Vice President of the United States. Those tend to be people who want attention. And so we're not cherry picking folks who we're talking to. We're talking about to anybody who shows up and wants to discuss. And the ladies you talked about, if I recall, didn't know anything about January 6th, didn't know it was a special date, hadn't heard about an insurrection. And I think that was shocking to us. I'm still surprised at every rally we go to. I think it becomes a testament to, we laugh, but it's a testament to also these silos that we live in. And I think you start as a comedian and you become an anthropologist by the end. And sadly, that's what we tend to uncover at most of these rallies, is the reality that some of our audience is living in, perhaps half of this country is living in, is very different than the reality the other half is living in. And so you start to see these narratives play out. And again, so that only The Daily Show does is we go there and we talk to people. And I think what you see is like, it's not just something made up in a newsroom. There are people in the center of the country who are being told a totally different narrative about the world around them, to the point that a date that lives in infamy to other people is the date that doesn't even ring a bell of recognition for others. And I'm glad you laugh, because in equal parts, people tell me they also cry when they see clips like that.
Well, that's it. And it is doing a public service in really bringing us, this divided country, together, in showing that we're not all the same here and we're not all on the same page. And that is actually taking it beyond just a nightly comedy show here. You're really showing real life, as incredible as it seems.
And again, I don't do it because it's a public service. I don't want any recognition. Just a basic Emmy would make sense for something with that kind of value.
Compliance Emmy, because we should get that, because we went to so many of these rallies and we were fine. So if there's a COVID compliance Emmy, that our team would deserve.
And I'm sure they will come up with a COVID compliance Emmy. They need one. Jocelyn needs an Emmy for that shelf that she's sitting in front of there with those other awards.
Oh, my soccer trophy?
Yeah, and everything.
All champions.
Absolutely. Now, Zhubin, I want to talk from your perspective here of writing this show, turning it out nightly, working with Trevor and his particular talents and things, and making this all thing on the air under this level of pressure, because this is all very current and what's happening 2 minutes ago.
We're very lucky that Trevor has such a great approach to writing comedy, because at this level of volume, you really have to rely a lot on what your personal thoughts are, what your voice is, to keep generating not just jokes, but also insights that are worth listening to and watching on TV. And Trevor always is very thought forward. He doesn't just want to make, just easy jokes that don't make you think, or can just be said by anybody, but he wants to present a thought and then have jokes that come after the thought. And we're very lucky at the show that his thoughts are usually very interesting. I find them usually correct, and if they're not correct, then they are at least make me think about an issue that I have not thought about before. And so I'm always excited to talk to him about what he's thinking. because whatever he thinks, it's easy to make jokes off what he thinks. And I think that's what lets our show be so fun and so varied in what we talk about. Because Trevor can talk about almost anything, any kind of politics, any kind of pop culture, sports. And then when we have issues that Trevor wants to hear other perspectives on, we have an entire team that is also made up of equally funny, insightful people in Desi and Dulce and Roy and Ronnie and Michael. And they provide their own perspectives, and we have fun just having them play off Trevor. And so that kind of structure we have, where we just come in with a lot of ideas, really allows us to make jokes that just flow very well. And it feels like you're just watching people have fun talking about the news, talking about what's going on in the world, unless that you're feeling like you're watching somebody sit down with a script and rattling off jokes line by line by line.
Yeah.
So it's tough, to come in every day and have to write, material, but it's because of the structure we have in place and because of the brain juice emanating from Trevor. You see what happens when I don't have his thoughts. My metaphors collapse. You can see we're just having a lot of fun.
Well, you have a nomination this year, Outstanding Writing in a Variety Show, and that's great. For your staff, how many writers do you have that you work with on a daily basis here?
We have about, right now, we have about 15 writers on staff, and we work, all of them are involved in the process. We have a good system here of just best idea wins, best joke wins. And so whenever we have Trevor's thoughts about what he wants to talk about and what he wants to say about it, all the writers come together, work out ideas, work out their own jokes, their experiences, pitch those. Trevor goes through which ones, he adds his own ideas to that. If he disagrees with the idea, then we work that disagreement into the segment where he talks about some people might think this, and we joke about that, then he talks what he thinks. So the writing is such an integral part of the show because every writer has the opportunity to throw their ideas in. And we very much have that kind of collaborative flow that I think really elevates us as a whole, instead of having individual writers siloed off into individual jobs or individual categories.
Let me ask any of you, is this a golden age for political comedy? It seems like out there, you can't make this stuff up. And, and yet it's there, it's out there for you. So when you say you're coming in under pressure to come up with all this stuff, it seems like you've got a lot of material to work with out there in the world.
Sometimes the pressure is just, how do we fit this all into our tonight? And what will hold till tomorrow and not, be boring or thought of as late to the game. And there's so much. I mean, on Monday there wasn't actually. Zhubin will back me up.
No,
there's no news. But there's always something, and most of the time there is too much, I would say.
I'll also say it's unfortunate, I think, that we live in an age where there's so many targets ripe for satire. It feels very great from a comedian's perspective and very exhausting from just being a person having to live in the world perspective.
Right. And, it's changed from the era of the brilliant Johnny Carson and Letterman, who's a god to everybody in the business and all of that, but it's completely different now. And the host you have and Trevor and all of them make their opinions part of this and what they're saying. And it seems like a different landscape for late night than it ever was at any other time.
And it is, and Trevor in particular is really interesting as a host because he didn't grow up here, so he's not a Democrat or a Republican, and he sees everything through a different lens. It's just does this make sense to me? Is this morally aligned with how I feel and think? And so he's not really sucked into any particular party line. So it really gives him a very different perspective than anyone that kind of has been living American politics their whole life.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. Everything that goes when you talk to groups like this and you hear what goes into it, it's just amazing. I'm thinking, man, that's a hard job that you guys make somehow look easy. And it's not just behind the scenes here too. It's you're creating comedy stars. You're creating stars on this. There's so many funny things in the clips that we watched. I mean, how many shows are going to reference Macaulay Culkin in My Girl as a beekeeper and then come up with it's just so off the wall, and she's so great. All of the, you know, the people that are coming out of this show, I think are, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Jocelyn and I watch thousands of tapes, and it is the most fun, exciting thing when you find one that's great. I mean, Jocelyn, I remember we watched Klepper's tape together.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, what a win, you know, when you see somebody that's just really funny and you get to take them and like help grow talent on the show.
And it's great to see people like Jordan grow into the kind of people that demand to fly private jets from New York City to Philadelphia.
That's the kind of thing. I think this show, it not only creates, you know, comedy icons, but it creates assholes. Like, it really it takes like nice people from the Midwest and then it puts them under rigorous attention and demands, puts them into the Hollywood system, and eventually they're begging for awards and free flights across the country. But then again, it's humbling because they still make you beg for health insurance and you have to go talk to people who want to punch you in the nose. So it's a balance, you know?
We're so excited to watch Desi really become the next Klepper.
Yeah, that is entirely possible. She could well do that. Before we have to go, because they're saying rap when you can. I don't know if I can rap, but I'm going to try. There is one last question. Any of you can answer this. If no one has watched this season of The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and they're going in a total virgin here, what do you want to say to them? What do you want to say to them about coming in and watching your show and why it would be a good thing?
Oh my God, so much content. That's what I'm going to say. Oh my God. Made all that? In a year?
And more.
Yay, good stuff. No, honestly, there's so many talented people working on this show, and so many people working so hard, like both in front and behind the cameras, that like all of that, like I'm impressed, and I get to work with these people every day. So that's what I would say.
Honestly, it's interesting. I think a lot about this show, and I talk to other people who are fans, and I do think we live in such chaotic times right now, and we're all living through such a wild news cycle that at the end of the day, it does feel like you need to digest. And I do think a credit to Trevor, all snide jokiness aside, is that like he is such a kind, thoughtful, insightful guide through the chaos of the day that doesn't live in the land of hyperbole or anger or scream. But I think he is somebody who has an outside perspective that comes with empathy and so much humor. And I think that is something that at the end of the day, and usually an exhausting one, I often feel like The Daily Show with Trevor as a guide is like a good path to sift through the chaos to hopefully wake up with a fighter's chance the next one.
That is where we're going to end it, because that is a reason to watch this show if you haven't seen it. Thank you all for joining us on Half Hour with The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and best of luck at the Emmys this year.
Thank you.
Go for it. All right, thanks guys.